Hello and welcome to Viewing Gods, the Explosion Network's American Gods after show. I'm Dylan Blight, and joining me is this true Australian god, Nicholas Pryor.
I think it's more of a pre-show currently.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's the Viewing Gods, American Gods pre-show episode. Pre-post show episode. It's also, I do want to take a second to point out, because it is funny back doing this one, that this was the first Explosion Network's first ever after show we did, and now we've done a heap, but yeah, trendsetters is exactly for sure. I think the show looks a lot better, probably sounds a lot better on all fronts, but
certainly the heists look a lot better than the other ones.
Yeah. But the content is still good old swipe left or swipe right on Billquist. That's
godly content.
Godly content, that's for sure. So this week we're just going to be talking about our thoughts on the show's potential future, our hopes for season 2 when that kicks off next week. Of course, season 2 is finally kicking off the premiere. They had the world premiere and like red carpets and stuff this week. I was watching at some point last night while I was eating my dinner, I was watching the Nerdist red carpet thing just in the background. I was like interviewing cast members and stuff about it. So
is that a thing that often happens? Because maybe I'm just not that clued in, because I don't often hear of anything like that for a TV show.
What, for TV shows? Yeah. For your big TV shows, if the like network's big enough and they got enough money behind them, especially when it comes to like your pop culture, like shows that are more popular in pop culture and stuff, they'll have. Which
kind of I could understand for Game of Thrones and the like, but I don't know. This just doesn't feel like of that tier.
I don't think it either. Like, of course, the numbers and the response to the first season would show it's nowhere near Game of Thrones level, but I guess the company
trying to make something of it.
Yeah, they can still throw. It's like Tommy Wiseau through a fucking. You know what I mean? Like, if you've got the money, if you've got the willpower, you can try and throw anything for anything. Not trying to compare American Gods to The Broom, but just saying that anything is, of course, possible. So yeah, next week when the show kicks off, you can join us where we'll be reviewing and giving our thoughts on the season premiere, of course, which I've seen most response from people is a bit mediocre, but then at the same time, I don't recall main like reviews for the premiere for the first season in the first place being particularly fantastic. They were all pretty like all over the place. So it's, I'm not really going to take too much from anything when it comes to reviews for this show. I'm relying on my own thought process for it, for sure.
Yep.
All right. So the first thing though, next week it does come back, but it's been over a year since it was on TV. But
yeah, it feels like quite a while, doesn't it?
It feels like a very, very, very long time. So actually, the first question really is, I've already rewatched the season finale of season 1, and then they do now also have up on Amazon Prime, of course, where it airs in Australia and some other places, even though it's a Starz TV show. They do have like a season 1 recappy type video happening and all these sorts of things. And I'd suggest doing some, like even a Wikipedia synopsis thing before going into season 2, because as much as you may be like, I'll be fine, you start like looking up some stuff, you're like, I don't remember half of this shit happening, which makes perfect sense because it has been a very, very, very long time since it was on, and it's a TV show that even though it only had 8 episodes, it was so dense. Yeah, is 100% right. So do you reckon you're going to do any sort of preparation?
No, there's a recap. Like, likely it'll play it before I watch season 2 of episode 1 anyway.
You'd hope so.
Episode 1 of season 2, yeah. But if not, I'll definitely go and catch up on it. Like, I still kind of vaguely remember again, like, but I don't know how much of that is remembering from the book to the series and whatnot. So,
which there's a lot of differences with. And by the way, in the season finale of the Viewing God season 1, I was like, maybe I'll read the book by the time next season comes around. No,
did not happen.
Didn't happen. The more I looked into it, the more I thought about it, because this like they're deviating so heavily from the book. That I know
judging from the trailer, it looks like it deviates even more. So.
Yeah, so then it's like, do I want to get 2 storylines mixed up in my head and stuff and be doing all that? So I was like, nah, fuck it. I'll just leave the book for now, and then I could just focus on the story the TV show is actually trying to tell. Before we get into talking about the trailer and stuff, I do think it's worth covering all the much talked about behind the scenes trouble. Of course, this is going to be the most negative aspect coming into the series, I reckon, more so than anything, because potentially this could be the final season. I know that's like being very negative on the outset, but
I think there's a likely chance it's the last season than it's not.
Exactly. So it is really hard to not go into this just going, I hope you do some sort of like semi-finish or like a finish with enough open for the potential of season 3 or something like that. But I really hope they don't leave it open. Like season 3 for sure.
Yeah, it's tough to do that, to have a semi-reasonable ending but leave it open as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's one of those like
thing to do. Yeah,
it's like one of those things you do. So, if you do it smart, it works because the audience has some sort of ending, but then they have the opportunity to continue the show. But then I often wonder how much, like the creatives in charge of the show may just get lost and think, oh, for sure we'll get a season 3, and not have any idea of really what's happening when you can look at it from the outside. All the trouble that was going on behind the scenes as soon as season 1 wrapped, and has happened throughout the year and a bit since then, where they've actually had someone else come in, take over, then that person's been let go, cast members have left, they did a bunch of reshoots, they're apparently struggling to get scripts and all these sorts of details. So it's a bit of a nightmare. It doesn't really help you go into the season with the highest hopes, I suppose, but it's one of those things. So I do want to read a little bit to cover this. There was a Hollywood Reporter article that came out September of last year, written by Leslie Goldberg and Maureen Ryan, and I've cut out some key quote parts here from the article that are interesting. So it says, Jesse Alexander, who took over Starz American Gods in February after the original showrunners Michael Green and Brian Fuller were pushed out, has been sidelined, multiple sources tell the Hollywood Reporter. So this was back in September, where they were apparently still trying to finish up the show. They actually ended up sidelining the person who they was hired to come in as a showrunner as well. And technically, as far as I can tell, the show actually ended. But when they were wrapping up editing and finishing up the show, it didn't have a showrunner in charge of all of that. And going into the show actually starting now, they still don't have a showrunner. So any potential talks of a season 3 definitely aren't going to be happening, because they still wouldn't have someone in charge of being able to make that happen. It says Alexander turned in multiple drafts of the show's season 2 finale, but the executives at both Starz and Fremantle came in there, and we'll get more to them in a second. They're like the production company that was kind of running the show, and they've got some weird stuff happening with them because they basically do reality TV shows only, and this is their only show that's a scripted thing. Have rejected those scripts and are up to what sources describe of a 7th draft. So this is back in September. They're still drafting the finale for the show and stuff like that. Production on the drama, which is 6 weeks behind and recently was forced to go on a hiatus, is in a disarray. Cast members have not received copies of the script for the show's season 2 finale because, as one source put it, there is no script. Another source says it's possible the crew has received a far from finished version of the final script, but whatever has been partially distributed is almost guaranteed to go through extensive changes. Instead of shooting the season finale, which should have been in production already, American Gods has been filming pickups and reshoots of earlier episodes.
Which makes me think that we're going to get an extensive mid-season break or something.
You reckon?
Possibly. If they're still writing the script for the final episode, and it's only an 8-episode season.
Nah. I'm pretty sure it's done. I just think they may be still polishing up and finishing that, because as another thing as it gets into here is apparently they shot a lot of stuff, and of course, and then they spent a lot of time going back trying to shoot stuff or use special effects and fancy editing and stuff to basically make what they shot more fun to watch or whatever, because
which is very, very worrying.
Yes, very, very, very so. Continues, there are a lot of people who had a lot of different versions for what the book would look like on air, says one source with extensive knowledge of the show's history. There was conflict in the first season, much of it documented when Green and Fuller, the original showrunners, were fired in November 2017. And if anything, things got worse in season 2, multiple sources note. Starz largely let Fremantle run the show, but Fremantle's stable of programs are mostly in the reality realm, which makes the stakes surrounding Gods, one of the studio's rare scripted programs, all the higher. It's really weird, like, why they would let them... So you put a production company that does reality TV and start in charge of not only a scripted show, but a scripted show that is so heavily stylized and dense. And, you know, like, it's not like, hey, Arrow, you know, like CW level of a scripted TV show, which they'd probably handle better, I suppose.
I think maybe Starz saw the writing on the wall going, we don't have a lot of faith in this. So we can, if it goes to shit, we can tell the shareholders it was Fremantle's fault, not ours.
I guess, yeah. Gotta put the blame on someone.
Yeah.
There was so much wariness in the creative community about trying to take over from Green and Fuller that, according to multiple sources, many potential showrunners turned down the job before Alexander agreed to step in. And once he arrived, his take on the material did not necessarily mesh with that of the several cast members, as well as crew members and executives who prefer to sustain aspects of the previous showrunner's vision. So it sounds very much like, obviously, Michael Green and Brian Fuller, who started the show in season 1, much like, and of course, the season 1 was heavily stylized, much like Fuller's other work, like Hannibal and stuff. And we talked about that before, but it sounds like he's come in and wanted to do a more straight down the line version of it with a lot less of that. And a lot of the cast members and crew members and stuff behind the scenes were like, we enjoyed what we were doing in season 1, and this isn't the show. This isn't the show that we were making. This is a completely different show.
I can understand you want to come in, put your own stamp on the thing, but is telling an overarching story, like, you're not making your own separate thing. It's still part of what came before it. So why not try and kind of continue it on, I guess? It's kind of reminiscent of, I'm not saying that it's a quality show, but Supernatural, like the first 5 seasons, the original showrunner told his story arc in that, and then different showrunners come in and it turned into a completely different show after that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of reminiscent of that, where they're kind of like 2 separate shows, but it's still one whole thing.
It's like, I often, like in this case, like Supernatural's like 5 seasons in, and often those long-running shows, like Walking Dead's the same, changes showrunners several times. Of course, the first couple seasons, and then after that, it changed drastically when they fired oh fuck, I can't even remember his name now. But with American Gods, it's like if you're gonna bring in someone who just has like a complete polar opposite vision of the show, kind of, or wants to do it differently, it's like at this stage, I don't know, just fucking reboot it. Just like you're gonna get enough bad press as it is. Just be like, you know what, fuck it. Season 1 didn't work. Guess what? Come back in 2019. We're trying again. We're starting starting the story again. Fuck it. Might as well. Will some of the cast members hang around? Yeah, some. Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
So there was much wariness in the creative member. There were clashes over scripts from the day of the first of the. There were clashes over the script from the day of the first table read. Sources note that the season 2 scripts were often rewritten on the set, as many involved in the series wanted to honor the original vision and project that they saw in important aspects of the characters and plot. After some actors, including star Ian McShane, Mr. Wednesday, began taking passes at improving dialogue, the production was forced to enlist co-star Orlando Jones, Mr. Nancy, as a writer on the series, so a member of the WGA, which he is, would be credited with writing instead of having actors violating guild rules. Because apparently it turns out that Ian McShane and a couple of actors that they don't say or whoever, but were just rewriting lines and this sort of stuff, which of course goes... You're not allowed unless they get credited in some sort of thing. So then they have to credit Orlando Jones because he's the only WGA member on of the actors there. Yeah. So they credit him for a lot of what's going on. And it's like the moment actors are kind of like, shut the fuck up, whoever written this, and shut the fuck up, whoever's directing this. I know better than you. Let me just start rewriting lines. It's like, okay, yep, that's going down that rabbit hole.
But it's kind of worrying too because that Jesse Alexander, I didn't realize, wrote 8-Legged Freaks.
Yep. Classic film.
Dragging the bottom of the barrel for that one.
Classic film, some would say. Others say some writers were coming to set with handwritten notebook pages, rewrites of scripts Alexander oversaw, amid screaming matches between the showrunner and McShane, which is almost... here's the thing. We're reaching a level with this show where... And I'll put it out there, of course. We're setting up, we're doing the show, viewing gods and stuff. I rewatched the finale episode yesterday. I watched the trailer for it again recently. I'm excited for American Gods, like I enjoyed the show. I'm ready and I'm excited to watch it again. And I hope it's not as bad as it all sounds. But we're reaching a level, and the more I read about behind the scenes stuff, where I'm like, do I want American Gods season 2, or do I just want a documentary of leaked footage following what the fuck went wrong with the show? It's like, what is more interesting, season 2 or behind the scenes? At this stage, Ian McShane yelling at Alexander on set might be more interesting.
It reminds me a lot of the Lethal Weapon TV show, where everyone hated everyone else. It's just like when you come to work with that kind of attitude, you don't put in your best work, and the whole product suffers. So, yeah. I didn't realize the problems were this extensive. Yeah.
Starz is also said to be unhappy with Alexander, who, according to several accounts, took gods in a more conventional direction. Though Fremantle and Gaiman supported Alexander, and I don't know if it says exactly here somewhere, but there was also a report at some stage where Gaiman was potentially part of the reason that Fuller and Green were originally fired, because Gaiman wasn't too happy with, by the time season 1 aired, he wasn't too happy with the changes they made to the book and like how the style of the show, and like I don't know if he like exactly walked out and was like, hey, fire them, but the story kind of goes that maybe he sat down with the Starz or whoever and was like, don't really like all these changes that are happening, because they did make some drastic changes, especially with what the fuck is the Irish
Mad Sweeney.
I'll have to get back into remembering everyone's name very soon, but not this week. Mad Sweeney and that, of course, huge changes, and then like how stylized the show was, and it's a lot more drawn out, and from all accounts that I've read, a lot more slower paced in the book and these sorts of things. So,
which is funny because the book is quite slow paced too.
Yeah, so apparently, he wasn't too happy, and that may have been part of the reason, because there's that plus the fact that the show's very expensive, season 1 to make, of course, which makes sense given the style and everything. Of course, it's not cheap to make. But then they were asking for more money for season 2, and then like that plus Gaiman not being happy might have been the reason that they ended up being fired, basically. Although they didn't use the word, Starz never used the word fired, but Michael Green on his Twitter was pretty much like, we were fired back when it all went down. Took gods in a more conventional direction. Though Fremantle and Gaiman supported Alexander, at least until recently, the premium cable network, sources say, balked at the evolution and wanted more of the atmospheric, hypnotic tone that Green and Fuller had created, which I find really funny and one of my favorite parts of this whole article, because it's like they were upset that the show was costing so much money to have a certain style, but then we're trying to like cut costs and get someone in to do it for cheaper, but then when it's like you can't make it the same way without actually having the money, they're like, oh fuck, it doesn't work. It's just one of those like, if you want a certain thing, it costs certain amount of money, and they were just like, oh fuck, I didn't realize that's
the old Cadmere for you can't have it and eat it too.
So they're trying to cut costs and like have it go down this path, and then from all accounts, by the end of the show, they were like, fuck, it's not as stylized or as edgy or whatever you want to call it by the end of the second season. So I don't know if they've gone back and done some reshoots to get some more slow motion voiceover scenes with weird shit happening, but the departure of Green and Fuller was recently said to be driven by budget disagreements. The freshman season running at an estimated 30 million over budget. THE reported in February, but the spending on season 2 has notably outstripped its original budget now as well. Of course, with reshoots, delays, all this stuff, having to pay someone to come on, writers, etc., etc., etc. So I wouldn't be surprised at the end of this if this season ends up costing more because of all the fuck ups and stuff and whatever else is going on.
It would have been easier if they just kept them.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one source says, now they're spending to spice up what was flat on the page, which is always a good quote to read. And then I've added in here as well that let's not forget that Gillian Anderson and Christian Chenoweth will not be coming back for this season. I didn't
know that either.
Yeah, they both left with Fuller and Green. I'm not 100% sure if Kristen Chenoweth, she was Easter. I'm not 100% sure if she left in I don't know. I've never seen her outwardly say in public like she left in tandem with Green and Fuller's kind of thing. But Gillian Anderson was very much like, you fired my pal Brian Fuller over here. I'm off. Fuck you. Bye. Because she had a relationship with him from Hannibal, of course. Yeah. So they had a friendly thing, and she was like, we fired him and he's my friend. So bye. Peace out. Which, of course, is kind of annoying because she was one of the best parts of season 1.
Which is very annoying, but from arguably of all the characters that they can recast, as she would be the easiest.
Yeah, character-wise.
Character-wise, she can be anyone and anything.
Exactly. So it's kind of very lucky for them. But the Christian Chenoweth thing, which I don't think they've recasted, they're just apparently not going to have the character in anymore, is really weird considering at the end of season 1, she's there.
Yeah.
And she literally causes a famine, or however you want to describe it, and would make sense to be a big part of the season going forward, especially from someone who hasn't read the book. I'm just assuming should be a big part of the story going forward, given where the show ends. But now it's like, no, she's not going to be there. Yeah, the Gillian Anderson thing, disappointing because she's great and was fantastic in season 1, but character-wise, they get lucky on that one.
Yeah, very lucky.
Very lucky. So what do you think of all this? Are you more scared going into the show now? Do you just think does it even make you think that even less that there's chances of season 3?
Yeah, I do not expect a season 3 whatsoever. It is, If it is, it'll be, if they do go season 3, I reckon it'd be so low budget and just into nothing that it's just not even worth doing.
Well, originally it was supposed to be 10 episodes of this season, and I already had to cut that back to 8 already just to kind of get it done.
Like, I'll watch it because I'm invested in season 1 and I love the book, but each episode is going to be so cautiously going into it to manage my expectations.
I feel like, and we'll talk about the trailer in a second, but I just feel like from everything we've seen, I'm like, at worst, it's kind of just more of season 1, but maybe not as exciting or like I could feel like everything we've seen, at least tonally, they're kind of matching it and stuff, and they've got the visual flair and stuff going. But if what they're saying here, like flat on the paper and all that sort of stuff, it doesn't have the level of that writing that season 1 had, which does ride that level of at sometimes being really annoying, where it's just a lot of monologuing and poetic kind of meandering happening with a lot of characters and stuff. But it's like that's the thing, it is poetic in some degree, and then matching with what is written with the visuals kind of gave it its style and stuff, whereas this season maybe they match the style and they managed to mimic that, but then the writing isn't up to par, and we could be watching it going, they're trying, and like it's still fun to watch because of the characters, and there are some standout actors in this, of course, that I think could carry the season, the show, no matter what, just because they are such interesting characters and actors and loud actors and characters and stuff like that. But we could still be at the end of it going, I'm a bit worried, especially how he's taking a more straight-laced kind of direction where, I don't know, like the whole idea of the American Gods and that the gods were dramatic and showboating and over the top and so dramatic and just visually appealing is just, I don't know how to go not as that surrealist. Well, it's like, even watching that finale again, I'm like, which I love. And I also saw like on Tracked, I gave it like a 9 last year, 2 years ago when it came out. And I'm like, I still think it's a pretty great finale, because what I love about it is it doesn't like rush to some big thing or whatever. And it literally spends like the first 20 minutes or whatever where they're getting that suit and Mr. Nancy, as you're just saying about like showboating and all this sort of stuff. It's like, let's tell a story. It's like, just no, how about we get on with the actual plot of what's happening here? Ian Mr. Wednesday literally just killed someone like a second ago. Are we going to talk about that? No, let's just spend like 20 minutes of telling a story of Bilquist and her coming to America and stuff. And that was one of the complaints a lot of people had for the first season, though, of course, is that they spent too much time with the the coming to America stories of the gods rather than the actual story that was happening between Mr. Wednesday and Shadow, of course. But then it's like also the favorite moments of the series are a lot of the coming to America stuff, and a lot of them were stuff that was added in for this show, like particularly the backstory with Laura Moon, like the character that wasn't her but looked like her, you know, and they had that whole thing back in the 1800s or whatever it is with I can't even remember what did they were like, oh, that was a relative, or did they just be like, oh,
I think they just used the actress.
They just used the same actress, but
I don't think it was explained.
That whole backstory though, I still reckon was like, and that's not in the books, and that was still one of the probably better episodes that happened, and that was nothing to do with the main plot at all, really. It's just it's off doing its own thing. So, all right, let's talk about the trailer and stuff and get our thoughts before we actually head into the season next week. I like the trailer, the main one that's put out. I think it's like it definitely didn't scare me as to where the show's going, and a lot of the stuff we're just talking about is where you get the scares of the potential of the show.
If you didn't know all this was happening behind the scenes, you wouldn't really know it from the trailer.
Yeah, I reckon 100%. I reckon watching the trailer, it just matches and looks like season one. Like it gets away with everything. Like it looks like season one. There's even the stuff where actors are missing. Like you do see media at some stage. I believe it's her at some stage. There's like a holographic woman like dancing and at something in some stage there with fucking technical boys like watching it seems and stuff like that. So I believe that's new media as well. And then you get to the end where it's just the merry-go-round thing happening.
I forget what the place is called, but
all that. And it's like the visuals all match up, you know. You get to see more Bilquist with Shadow. You get all these sorts of things. It all matches up and makes sense visually, but a lot of what's happening in the trailer, it is all visual, and it's mostly just Wednesday.
You can't intuit anything like story-wise from it.
Yeah, exactly. There's like, you could not piece together much, if anything, story-wise that's going to be happening, and then all of it that you really ever hear talking is Wednesday giving this like it seems like he's talking to Shadow from the whole thing, whether or not it's directly from the show or like a combination of a line he records from the show and then a little bit added on for the trailer or something. But he's basically just talking up to Shadow that the war's coming, blah, 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 blah. Which is one thing. The trailer does set up that apparently season 2 we're actually going to get the war, but then that leads to the bigger question of, are they actually going to get there, or is it still just going to spend a lot of time fucking around and not actually getting to whatever that war actually looks like, of course? Because season 1...
It'd be interesting how they manage to tackle this if he's trying to do it more with the books too, because quite a large portion of the last half to third is Shadow living in this town, which is, it's from a pacing perspective, it'll be like, I imagine like 3, maybe 4 episodes of him just living in this town, just like living there. Like, it's like so out of the way from everything else that happens. So I don't know if they'll rush through that to get to the end, or if they'll spend that time and then we won't get a satisfactory ending if we don't get a season 3. It's just going to be real weird.
Well, I know that they said, I've seen people say that for at least a couple episodes, Shadow's separated from Wednesday for some degree. But apparently that only lasts a couple episodes, and it's not. So I don't know if that answers your question, if that makes
possibly
sense. Yeah. Because apparently the Wednesday goes off with some of the characters, and then Shadows with Laura and whatever else. I think someone else as well for a couple episodes or something like that. It seems. If you can piece all those puzzle pieces together, though, I guess. One thing though, in the trailer, we only really see, from what it looks like, one like flashbacky coming to America thing.
It looked like a Matt Sweeney one with all the makeup and the war and all that.
Where he's fighting and stuff like that. Yeah, I know obviously they wouldn't put them all in the trailer, but I do wonder, considering like all the behind the scenes stuff with the show, and a lot of people had complaints and stuff with it, if we don't really get much more of this season, and maybe they just finish off. They do one for Mad Sweeney because like he's a main character in the show.
Favorite.
Yeah, and a fan favorite for sure. And then they spend a lot more time actually focused on the main characters and what they're doing and stuff like that. And would that be okay? But yeah, how do you feel about trailer? Do you like the trailer? Did the trailer actually get you excited for the show? Was it just like, oh, it's fine?
I really love the song. I love that cover of that song. I think it fit perfectly for it. And one thing I did notice was the addition of Dean Winters.
Oh, yeah, he's playing. Oh, fuck! I'd have to look it up now. I forgot to add it in. But he's playing one of the. He's an old god person, isn't he? Like.
Oh, is he? He wasn't in season 1, was he?
No, he's one of the new additions to the show.
Okay, yeah, I didn't look up to see if he had been casted yet. So
he's one of 2 new main actors. He's Mr. Town.
Mr. Town.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a new character though, because I know they are adding in some new characters as well stuff. Mr. Town. Okay, no, he's one.
He's
a new god.
He's a new god. Yeah.
Background here it says Mr. Town has been tasked by Mr. World to find out what Shadow knows about Mr. Wednesday's plan. Is what he is.
Okay, they can't. I know what they are.
Yeah,
I don't want to spoil it.
They've added in a couple other new actors as well. I know they cast a Native American actor as well for some not like lead role, but
there's a section where he goes to like kind of a native reserve and stuff.
Yeah, so like at least that's going to be one for an episode or 2 there as well. So there's a couple new characters as well as the replacement actors, but I feel like even missing Gillian Anderson, it's like you've still got Crispin Glover, and he was like standout, of course. You've still got, I can't remember the actor's name, but you've got Technical Boy, who, as much as he's a cunt, of course, is a standout in the show. You've still got Ian McShane, of course, in it, which is really important. You've still got Emily Browning, who was quite good in the first season as well. And you've still got, what's his name, Pablo Schreiber?
Lee Schreiber's half brother,
Yeah, or however it works out. I have to double check his name, but and he's still in. The thing, though, of course, when we're calling out all these actors and saying it's really good because they're all going to be part of it, I didn't hate him in the first season, of course, but he's never been a standout, and that's Ricky. Let me check his Ricky Whittle, which is Shadow, and that's another thing with this season. I do wonder, like they kind of got away with it in the first season, I guess, because he's being dragged through the story, and a lot of time he kind of looks lost in the world and he doesn't know what's going on. And I think I gave it a pass for a lot of time because I'm like, it makes sense because that's what's happening with his character, and he's a little bit out of it, and a lot of weird shit's happening around him. And I think I gave him passes a lot for that. So I do wonder if in this season they managed to make that character a little bit more interesting because he's not really going to have that excuse going forward.
I don't know how much of it is for him to blame as opposed to the writing, because in the book he kind of is just like a blank character as well. So I don't know if that's really his fault or the way it's been written for him as well.
If it's like it in the book, I guess it's just how the character's written. But is he written in the book that way to like kind of fill a void for the reader?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, so that doesn't work in television though.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they flesh him out a bit more and give him a bit more artistic license, I guess.
Well, I know a lot of people had problems with him in the first season, and I understood the problems, but as I said, I was kind of willing to give it that pass. But yeah, coming into this season and just watching the trailer, it's like looking forward to seeing what Laura's up, looking forward to see what happens with Billquist this season. What's happening? Let's see how Mr. Wednesday starts this war. Like, none of my excitements are about who is the main character, you know? It's not like, I'm excited to see what Shadow, I don't really care what Shadow does this season, really. And
one thing I also noticed too, that it appears that Salim and the Jinn are going
to have main characters. They're going to be coming along, actually, that's funny. I can't remember that have the actor's name in front of me, but the person who plays the Jinn he was on that red carpet thing for the Nerdist thing, and the interviewer, who was Jessica Chobot, she was doing it. She's like, are we going to get to see a lot more of your character this season? And I can't remember exactly what it said, but he pretty much was like, I think you saw enough of my character last season. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And I was like, yeah, That's well played on that one. So yeah, look forward to more of that, I guess. But yeah, it's they put out like a picture before, and you see him in the trailer. They're like in some restaurant and all these sorts of things together. I don't know how his character really works into it in the long run, because of course it's like, what side is he picking if he has to pick a side between the new gods and the old gods and stuff like that. But wrapping up though, I suppose I would say, as much as the behind the scenes stuff is of course horrible to read and be like, what the fuck is going on with this show? Watching the trailer, rewatching the finale, just generally looking at the imagery for the show and everyone who's involved and stuff, I am excited to watch it. I suppose, like, I'm looking forward to it. I'm generally like, I wish when I finished that finale yesterday, I really wish that the season 2 episode was already up, because I'm like, fuck, I wish I could just jump into that right now. So everything said, I'm excited. How about you?
Cautiously optimistic.
Sure. That's better than not excited, I suppose, is the thing, for sure. All right. Thank you for joining us on this first episode of Viewing Gods for this week, of course. You can follow me on Twitter at Vivaladil, VIVALADIL. You can talk to Nick on Discord over at explosionnetwork.com/Discord. You can watch this show on youtube.com/Explosion Network, or listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting services, or of course find it and much more great content, including our movie and TV podcast, What Do You Want to Watch, over at explosionnetwork.com. We will see you next week for hopefully a at least decent premiere episode of American Gods. Until then, bye-bye.
Don't forget to log your viewings and tracked.
Not sponsored yet, but good website.